Wes, it really happened that quick. Bodek just said, I have this great group of leaders in Toronto. Can you come and share this? And that was, what, 3.5 weeks ago?
Probably, yeah, something like that.
And we just said, yeah, let's make it happen. And so here we are. So just before I begin, I love starting with this slide because that literally is my intention to have you have that experience here tonight. The experience of choosing the red pill and the blue pill. All right, and just before I start, I just want to clear a couple of intentions for the evening. So whether you heard about this event through Toronto business leaders or if you heard it from a few other people within Unique Wealth, that you're here is great because one of the intentions tonight is to give you a sense of what's actually going on in the background that's just not available in the media, it's just not available from your teachers, it's just not available in schools, it's definitely not available from the banks, CNN, okay? So a lot of the stuff here tonight might tick you off, or it might get you excited, or somewhere in between that spectrum. But whatever way you're left is perfect as long as it actually opens you up to learning new things about what's happening in the global economy, and specifically then to prepare you for how you can best position yourself to not only protect your wealth, but also to prosper in the times ahead. Okay, so that really is the twofold intention of tonight. And before I start, I just want to share a little bit about myself. For those of you, there's a few familiar faces here tonight. So who've heard me speak, and for those of you who I'm a complete stranger, my name's Glenn Esterbillo. I am from Canada, born and raised. I just came from Prague because my beautiful girlfriend Yelena here has just finished a year acting program in Prague. And while I was over there, I was using the free time that I had to really delve more and more into the markets, what's happening in the economy, but also new asset classes and vehicles that the average Joes and Sallys, I guess, if you will, could really position themselves in to prosper in the times ahead. So a little bit about myself, my background is engineering, and back in 2003 I did this program called Landmark Education. How many people have ever heard of Landmark Education? Solid. If you haven't, hear about it, it's cool. Okay? So I did this course called the Landmark Forum right around the same time. I went backpacking in Europe for a month. Right around the same time, I read 7 books by Robert Kiyosaki. How many of y'all have heard of Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad Poor Dad? Perfect. So you gotta imagine, there I am, I'm this 25-year-old kid who's out in the middle of the outback reading these books by Kiyosaki, and just participating in this transformational program that Landmark Education has to offer. So I started thinking about, man, forget this. I don't want to be working as an engineer all my life. So after a couple years of working as an engineer, I ventured off and started my own real estate investment company. 3 years later, I was able to retire from my full-time job at the age of 28, and that was the first time I retired in my life. A year after that, I don't really remember what the heck happened because I was just enjoying and spending a lot of money. Not really knowing what to do and not really understanding the value of money. So safe to say I kind of blew off a year. But then it came around, I started leading programs for Landmark Education, and I really got present to what my life is for, and my life really is for empowering people to be free. And while I was leading programs, a lot of people would come up to me and say, wow, how did you retire at the age of 28? What did you do? And at that time, this is about 2007, I wanted to tell them how I did it, and the vehicle that I used was real estate. But at that time, it actually would have had no integrity for me to direct them into that pathway because it wasn't the vehicle at the time. The markets were just peaking in 2007, 2008. Y'all know there was a recession, okay? So it really was something that was nagging at me at the back of my head. Like, how can I empower others to be free? How could I give away, some of the knowledge and experience that I've gained so that people everywhere around the world can make use of it to benefit their own freedom and their own financial freedom. So for a couple of years, I started investigating different asset classes, different other vehicles, and naturally I stumbled upon gold and silver, and I had no idea the amount of information that's available right now on the internet to everybody about this industry, yet very few people talk about it. And the people that do talk about it nowadays are the people who are advertising on the late night infomercials, you know, Oliver the cash guy saying, "Give me your gold and jewelry, I'll give you my cash." See, I started to see, how many of you have seen those commercials? How many of you have noticed they're actually starting to get more and more prevalent? Yeah. I remember, I'm from Hamilton, and like Hamilton's I say it's a small town. When I came back from Europe, and I noticed 3 gold shops advertising that they buy your gold and silver, that's when I started to say, okay, I got to tell people right now in Canada what the heck's going on, because I'm actually highly committed that people don't give grandma's jewelry to Oliver the cash guy. I'm committed that people don't be net sellers, they be net buyers and net savers. And altering the mindset of consumption in North America to a mindset of savings, but not just any savings, savings in real money. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean between what distinguishes real money from not real money, or what we call in the industry fiat currency. Okay? So that's a little bit about myself and why when Wojtek happened to watch a presentation I was doing, 1,000 miles across the ocean, he asked me to present to you guys here. I said, absolutely. It's not a coincidence that that opportunity came up right around the time where I had put together a presentation that I feel really explains simply, straightforwardly, what's happening in the global economy, what's in the background with the current paper-based system. And so I naturally accepted his request to be here. So that's a very long-winded way to say who I am and why I'm here. Okay, so again, I love this slide. How many people have seen the movie The Matrix? You remember this part where Morpheus is saying, okay, Neo, you're either going to take the red pill or you're going to take the blue pill. If you take the red pill, you're going to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. If you take the blue pill, you wake up in the morning, have a headache, and probably remember this more along the lines of a dream. Okay? So that really is the way that most people feel after they go through some of the material that I'm going to go through here tonight. Okay? So I just said in the beginning, if you like the movie and you like the rabbit's hole, great. If you don't, then have fun tonight anyways. All right? So let's start. I'm going to start by flashing this chart. This is probably one of the most important charts that people today should be able to recognize and understand. Okay, I'm going to flash it up a bit later on in the presentation, but I want you to get this. I'll simply explain it very quickly. Over here is a graph of the amount of money supply that's floating around in the US. And on the right here, this is the value over the same amount of time. This is the value of each paper US dollar. Now, those of you sitting here might be asking yourself, oh man, is this some other US presentation? It's not. Why am I talking about the US dollar? So how many of you know why I'm talking about the US dollar specifically? Yeah, Michael.
It's the reserve currency of the world.
That's right. It's the world reserve currency. Now, how many people know what the heck that means? Tell the truth. It's all good if you don't. How many people have no idea what the heck that means? All right, neat. So, just like Michael said, the US dollar is a world reserve currency. Basically, what that means is after World War II, the US was the big winner. And so all the gold and all the silver got paid in reparations from the losing countries to the big winner. And the big winner at the time was the US. So US was sitting on all this gold and silver. And so the US proposed at a particular meeting called Bretton Woods. And they said, well, since we got all the world's gold, why don't we just back our currency by gold? And because our currency is so strong, why doesn't all the other rest of the world's currencies just peg itself to the US dollar and we'll keep the US dollar pegged to gold? So at that time, it was a brilliant idea. It was an awesome idea, actually, in theory and principle. But then, as I'll share, something happened, and that whole thing just went to caca. Not in a bad way, but just not workable, okay? So I'll flash that up in a couple seconds. Because what I do want to talk about here is, actually, let me go right back. Money supply, just notice this is time frame, same amount of time frame, amount of paper dollars in currency has risen consistently over time, and the value has decreased consistently over time in a very highly correlated fashion. Okay? So, what the heck does that got to do with us? So, I'm going to explain to you something about our economy and the way that our banking system is run. So for this example, let's imagine y'all have $100. Okay, so when you get $100, most of us will then go and deposit that into the bank. So now the $100 is in the bank. Now, what a lot of people don't know is the bank's not actually in the business to hold your cash. How many of you know that? Okay, what's the bank in the business of? Making money. Now, how do they make money?
Lending money.
Who said lending money? Awesome. So the bank takes your $100 that you just deposited and says, awesome. What I'm going to do is, according to the laws in Canada and the US, and actually every major country in the world, westernized country in the world, is say, we're going to take 90% of it and we're going to loan it out. And we're going to make money on the interest payments on that loan. So $100 from you goes into the bank, they get to loan out 90%. In essence, what that means is at any given time, this bank only has to have a fraction of the $100 you deposited in its vaults, and then can leverage out $90 of that $100. That's the system that we have today, and that's what's called fractional reserve banking. So it means you can have a fraction of the money of the deposits in reserve and loan out the rest. That's how banks make money. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a fabulous business model if you're the bank. For us, there's some implications, and I'll get to that in a few seconds. So now, this bank goes out and finds people who want a loan. So they're looking for a guy, let's call him Average Joe, who needs a $90 loan. Average Joe goes, yeah, I want a $90 loan. So he signs up, gets a $90 loan, and say he gives that $90 that he just got on loan from the bank to Average Sally over here, because Sally needs it because she's got 2 kids to feed and she's really good looking, and Joe wanted to impress Sally, so he gave her some money. Now, when that happens, what do you think Sally does with that $90?
Puts it in the bank.
She puts it in the bank. So now another $90 comes into the bank. What does the bank do? Fractional reserves it, loans out 90% of that, $81 to Average Bill. Bill looks like Joe, but they're not the same person. Okay, they're different. What does Average Bill do when he gets the 81 bucks? He puts it in the bank. So now this bank's got 81 bucks and so forth, and can loan out 90% of that. So the $81 from Average Bill goes in. This bank loans out $72.90 in new bank loans. This goes on and on and on and on and on until eventually that initial $100 magically becomes $1,000 in circulation.